Hello folks, welcome to another video by the brilliant expat Taffy that's going to again shut up all the NASA nutcases. Nutcases like this idiot here, who done a remarkable job of picking the most appropriate ID possible. He chose Astrobrand, which is very appropriate, I'm sure you'll agree, because he's always talking through it, isn't he? Now folks, what this video is about is, as with all the rest of my videos, proving that the photos are fake by displaying numerous anomalies and errors. Not errors of incompetence, but deliberate inserted errors by the whistleblowers in the photo lab telling us the photos are fake. Something that this quackpot always refuses to accept. He states there are no whistleblowers. Well, take a look at these coming up. Okay, here's one, disguised as a shadow. An artistic drawing from one of the photo lab staff, a bird perched on the back of what could be an armadillo. And the next one, what could be, disguised as a rock or a shadow, a rat with front feet, front snout, head and a thin tail. Both of them, according to the numbskull Astrobrand, are not whistleblowers' clues, but extraterrestrials. Now here's another one. The numbskull claims he cannot see. Copied and pasted onto many astronauts, a staggered 3-hole door hinge. And that is the numbskull who claims he cannot see any of these. They are just pareidolia, imagination. And again, this one here, the numbskull, using one of his other IDs, claims that this figure of a flamingo, copied and pasted into the footpad of the lem, is nothing more than a piece of pink bubblegum that Buzz Aldrin spat out as he came down the ladder. Now folks, you can't get anybody any more insane than that. Now folks, here's the photo in question we're going to be dealing with in this video. Now here's a good time to test your perception. Just what's your views on looking at this photo at first glance? Just remember the words of the great Sherlock Holmes: from what do you see, what do you deduce? So, what's your views on this photo, folks? Now, folks, let me say, I first set eyes on this photo a few years ago, and I knew at first glance that what we've got here is a fake photo. A photo of a stuffed dummy. Now, you may ask, what was it that first brought about suspicions of this photo being fake? Well, what drew my suspicions first was the extent of the knees bent with this astronaut. Now just remember what I keep saying, everything is done for a reason and everything is done for a purpose. Now, wherever you've been, whether you've been at a football match, a supermarket, a train station, a bus station, you have never seen any man standing like this. The only time I can ever recall anybody standing like this is skiers at the top of a ski slope or Japanese sumo wrestlers. Now I can hear the numbskulls Astrobrand, don't be so soft, we can all stand with knees bent. Yes, you can, quite easily, with your feet flat on the floor. But if you notice with this one, he's standing on his toes. Now, you bend your knees the extent that this image shows you, and get up on your toes and see how difficult it is. You will not stand for very long like that. So like I keep telling you, everything is done for a reason and a purpose, so why stand him like this? The reason for that is to get him in the right posture for being standing up without falling over, because he's simply a dummy. And what I'm going to do here is provide the irrefutable evidence to prove that I am right again. I am the genius, and the numbskull like Astrobrand are nothing but a bunch of suckers. What I can tell you is there are many clues in this photo to prove that it's completely fake. And what I'm going to do is start off with the most contentious, simple clues first, and do as I've always done in my previous videos, keep my trump cards till the end. What I'm going to do is give the numbskulls like Astrobrand time to shout and bawl, we can disprove that, this ain't right, that ain't right, what about this, what about that? And then come to the end, I'll be slapping them in the face with a wet fish and saying, okay, explain that. Well, in this photo, I'll be slapping them twice in the face with a wet fish and say, explain that. And what will they do? Especially the numbskull Astrobrand, he'll shut up like a clam, and like a rat he'll crawl into his corner, and he'll be afraid to speak. Now, just like the previous video where I displayed an air compressor copied and pasted onto an astronaut, this photo here was also going to be part of a future video. But due to the enormous amount of evidence of fakery I have discovered in this photo, I decided it warranted immediate disclosure. Now, as with every other photo, my analysis starts off with one thing, and that is to decide or to check if the photo has been photoshopped. And I can assure you here that this photo has been photoshopped. And here it is. As you can see, it's been photoshopped. I've copied and pasted some of the detail from the data for this photo and pasted it onto this photo. Now, many times in the past, I've stated that photos have been photoshopped, and what I've had many times is this numbskull who's always speaking through his Astrobrand, calling me insane for stating photos are photoshopped. He states they cannot be photoshopped because Photoshop was not out in the 70s. Here is a post of his pasted onto his photo. Expat Taffy, thanks for another example of your insanity. You've made this same argument dozens of times over the last couple of years, and every time it has been pointed out to you that Photoshop didn't exist before 1988. You even acknowledge that, but you still don't get it. Well, folks, the only one who doesn't get it is this numbskull who's always speaking through his Astrobrand. Because what he doesn't realize is, even though Photoshop was introduced in 1989, if a photo has been photoshopped, it simply means the photo was either altered after 89 or it was made after 89. And I assure you the latter is the more correct. So what I'm going to do here now is give you a little display of how to determine if a photo has been photoshopped. Okay, what I'm going to do now is show you all how to find out if any of the moon landing photos have been photoshopped. Here's the program I used, HXD, large H, small x, large D. Download this to your computer. It's pretty quick to download and it's very easy to use. Now, the next step, once you've got that on your computer, I suggest you drag it from your desktop down to your lower taskbar, where I've got it down here. Now, the reason for that is when you've got your screen full of photos, HXD on your lower taskbar is easily available. It's always available. So, let's start, shall we? Let's get that out of the way. Now all you need to do is pick on a certain photo, any photo you want. Let's take this one here. You highlight it, that one there, you highlight it, and then right click and go down and copy. You've copied that. Now the next thing to do is go down to your taskbar down here. There's my HXD. Click on that and up it comes. Now up in the left corner here, I'll turn the screen around for you to see. You've got up in the corner, you've got File. I'm going to click on that. And what comes up is New and Open. You need to click on Open. And there you are, we get this up. Now in this box here, we're going to paste that photo. Then we click Open. And now look what you've got. You've got all the data for this photo on your screen. And I can assure you, you can scroll down here and scroll down and scroll down, and the amount of data is enormous. But all we are concerned about is what's in the top, which will be the most recent data that's been added. Now, if you can see it up here, it states Photoshop. And just down by here, it states Adobe. Now, in case you can't see it, I'll arrange it for you to see it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight from where it says Adobe, this top section. I'm just going to highlight and save that. Copy. Now, I'm going to bring up Microsoft Word down here. And what we'll do, I'm going to paste it here. Paste. Now there you are. There's all the data I've just saved from that photo. Now all I'm interested in is Photoshop here and Adobe there. So I'm going to delete a lot of this in the middle. We don't need it. Highlight and delete. Now that's all I've got there. What I'm going to do now for you here is highlight that and increase the text. I'll put it to 48. And there you are. You can see Photoshop. Scroll down, Adobe. There's proof that that photo, which was an astronaut on the moon, has been photoshopped. Now, what I do then is copy this and just paste it onto the photo. So there you are. Now you can find out if any photos have been photoshopped. And there are times, let me show you, there are times when this Photoshop data can be erased. It's now known to quite a few, or to people with good knowledge, how to alter the data, how to delete and replace it with other symbols. There is a good video I've seen on YouTube explaining how to do that. So we'll have many photos on the moon, and even if they don't show Photoshop and Adobe, that does not mean that they haven't been photoshopped. It just means that the Photoshop data has been deleted. But there you are. Now you can see the photos can be Adobe photoshopped. And the photo I just showed you let me show you again the photo I just showed you. Here it is here. That photo has been Adobe photoshopped. There you are. An astronaut supposed to be on the moon has been photoshopped. So there you are. What you've just seen there is proof of two things. First, the photos can be photoshopped, and second, this quackpot, as I've said many a time, is speaking through his astrobrand. The man is a complete moron. Now, what I'm going to start with first is one of the simplest of clues, and that is the shadows. Despite the fact that they are fake, they've just been airbrushed in, this shadow here displays a shadow that would have been created if it was created with light, with the light coming in at about 75 degrees, which wasn't the case, because they are supposed to have landed at an angle of 13 degrees, and that would have made the shadow longer up into the arrow B. Now, for those who watched an earlier video of mine, Fake Moon Landings, volume 11, I displayed a remarkable coincidence between the 6 LEMs that are supposed to have landed on the moon, and that was all the shadows were exactly the same direction. We soon had the numbskulls like Bertie Slack coming to NASA's aid, stating the pilots were all expert pilots, they all guided them in exactly the same direction, the same orientation, with their backs to the sun, which is a load of nonsense, because there is no record of any of them doing anything like that, and no mention of it in any of the videos showing them landing. But the obvious answer to that is because, as I have proven, there was not 6 LEMs but just 1, and you've only got 1 shadow. Now, another thing mentioned with these LEMs is they all landed 13 degrees, the sun being 30 degrees to the surface of the moon. So if that is the case, then every shadow for every astronaut should be about the same length, and here's proof of it. So here you are, folks. I'm prepared to accept the word of these numbskulls. If you say they came in 13 degrees, okay, I'll accept that. But what we can do, as you can see here, we can calculate for 13 degrees and an astronaut about 6 foot high, we can calculate exact length of the shadow. And as you can see here from my calculations, the length of a shadow for an astronaut 6 foot high would be around about 26 foot. That is just over 4 times his height. And if that is what we calculate here, it should be the same for every astronaut. The only thing that can make the length of the shadow different is if he was in front of a hill slightly going up, would make it shorter, and if he was near a dip in the ground where the ground is sloping down, that would make it longer. Now, surprisingly, for Apollo 15, 16 and 17, you can hardly ever find a shadow that corresponds to this length. For some reason, just about every one of them are short. Now, whether that's meant to be a deliberate clue, I'm not sure, but it's definitely not the case of them being 13 degrees to the sun. So there's the first clue. We let all the NASA nutcases rub their hands with glee. We can challenge that, we can challenge that. Okay, keep cool, just wait till the end of the video and we'll see what you've got to say at the end. Now, here's the next anomaly, the aerial. It is fake. As you can see, it's a different colour at the bottom to the top. Most of the aerial here it's not blue, it's not black, it's not white. It looks pretty opaque. It's just done with a pencil. And I shall be proving that. Here's another case where Astrobrand can shout and bawl all he wants, but I'll ask him at the end, please tell me, how the hell can you have a genuine aerial on a faked, stuffed dummy astronaut? Okay, for the next clue. Now take a look at the hands for this astronaut. What you can see here, looking at this photo, he's holding a rake or scoop, whatever it is, in his right hand. Okay, now what have we got for the left hand? What there seems to be is some object he is holding. What it is, I don't know, but that is an object that he is holding. So let's take a look at what he is holding, shall we? Now, what I've done with that left hand here, I've cropped it, close cropped it, zoomed it up, and slightly brightened it. You can see the palm of his hand, you can see his thumb, you can see his fingers. There is nothing in the palm of his hand, nothing gripping this object. So how did this object come to be by his hand? It must have been copied and pasted there, folks. There you are. You can see the thumb, the fingers, and there is nothing at all in the grip or palm of his left hand. He is not holding it. Okay, folks. Here's where I take the wet fish and slap the NASA numbskulls right across the chops. Take a look at this astronaut holding this rake. Well, in fact, he is not holding it. Can any of you see a hand here? I can't see a hand. Either it's chopped off as a clue, or it's completely covered. But what you can see is this rake has got either a bandage or a strip of cloth wrapped around the rake a number of times, wrapped around the wrist and tied with a knot. He is not holding this rake in his hand, folks. It's tied with a bandage to his right hand or wrist. And here's two photos combined to show you how he should be holding it. Look at the photo on the right. The astronaut there is gripping the pole in the palm of his hand with his thumb and his fingers around it. That is not the case with this dummy astronaut on the left, folks. Any of you deny you can see a bandage? Yes, we know the numbskull Astrobrand can see a hand and he's holding it tidy. Well, let's see what the rest of you say about that. Now, coming back to this astronaut with the bent knees. As I told you earlier on, everything is done for a reason and everything is done for a purpose. So what is the purpose of these bent knees? Well, for those who are familiar with physics, a body will topple if the centre of gravity lies outside the base. Now, the base point on this astronaut is his boot is torn, and what they've done is simply bent the knees to take the boot back to get it more in line with the centre of gravity, because if his legs were straight, the pack on his back would create imbalance and he'd fall backwards. So that's why they bent the knees, and the reason for the bandage on the rake is to tie his hand or wrist to the rake so that the rake acts as a crutch to make him more stable, to enable him to stand up. There's your 100% proof that this is a fake astronaut and a stuffed dummy. Okay, you've just seen evidence of fakery with the left hand, evidence of fakery with the right hand, and now we come to the legs. The thing that drew my suspicions when I first set eyes on this photo. Now here he is, look at the bend in the legs, and he's standing on his toes. Like I told you, you will find that very difficult if you tried it. Now, look what I've done here. I put 4 arrows on this astronaut's leg. A, B, C, D. Now A is the top of his lower leg. B is where the cloth for his suit on his lower leg meets the boot. And B to C is the height of the boot. Now look at the other arrow, D. That's showing, for the left leg, that's showing the position of the bottom of the cloth of his lower leg. Now below that should be a boot. So where is the boot, folks? His boot has been erased. Just look at the length of it on the left, from B to C. Look at the boot. It's been erased. And what have we got here? It's been replaced with some other object, copied and pasted into the photo. And what do you think that is? You examine that, it looks like a pyramid. But anyway, the base of it is perfectly flat and it's perfectly square. Something that's impossible to find on the moon, folks. You cannot get a flat, perfectly square stone on the moon. It's definitely an inserted object to fill the void left after erasing his left boot. You can notice the shadow. Look how straight the shadow is. Definitely another fake, folks, full of whistleblowers' clues. And that was your second slap in the face with a wet fish for the numbskull astrobrand. Now, how many of you recognize this photo from a previous video? Fake Moon Landing volume 14-2, where they displayed this astronaut where the whistleblowers have erased his right leg. He has only got one leg. Now do you see the similarities? We've now got an astronaut with only one boot, 1 foot. That shows the remarkable similarities from one photo to another, showing that it is the work of the same guy in the photo lab. Now, regarding this astronaut with only one leg, when asked for a comment, the numbskull and the liar and the idiot astrobrand, he would not commit himself to saying, "You're quite right, there is only one leg," because that would be admitting that the photo and the missions were fake. But he would neither commit himself under that ID to saying there is a leg and he can see one, because he'd be making himself look really stupid in the eyes of the world. So all this numbskull could say about this photo is, how could he lose a leg going from one photo, the previous, to this one? That shows what an idiot the guy is. He couldn't work out how he could lose a leg. And as I stated in my video showing this, it's quite easy to imagine how he could lose a leg. And that is, the photo lab staff simply erased it using Photoshop. More proof that that numbskull astrobrand is a complete moron and a complete idiot. So there you are, folks. All the evidence, again from the brilliant expat Taffy, showing this photo is fake and not taken on the moon. What we await now is to see what that numbskull astrobrand have got to say. But mark my words, he won't have the guts to comment under his own ID. He'll most probably send Joan Evans, which he have recently brought back out of retirement, or Dobie Debunks, or Dee Brock, or whoever. But he won't come under his own ID. Now folks, after watching that, all of you that are convinced that that astronaut is fake and is a stuffed dummy and not taken on the moon, please do the honourable thing of giving it a thumbs up and subscribe. And watch for the next video coming up within the week, titled, "Did Hamza the hook go to the moon? Okay, we wait your response on this one, moron.